Alright, so now let's solve a very interesting SQL interview problem that has actually been asked at Intuit. And this is not just any problem again, it's a classic gaps and island pattern problem which is extremely popular in data engineering interviews. So over here if you see, we are given a table called filed taxes, and each row in this table represents a user filing their taxes. So we have the filing ID, which is the unique record ID, right? The user ID, the filing date, and the product which the user actually used to do the filing, right? And this particular product is one of the products from Intuit, right? So now here is the requirement. We need to find the users who have filed using TurboTax as the product, right? For at least 3 consecutive years. And it could be any version of TurboTax. It could be desktop. It could be any version, right? But it has to be TurboTax in the product. So now let's understand the data. User 1 filed in 2019, 2020 and 2021 and all are using TurboTax, right? So this particular streak is counted, right? User 2 filed in 2020 and 2021, so only 2 years. User 3 filed in 2020 and 2021, but then they switched to QuickBooks, right? So again, this is not counted. And then user 4 only used QuickBooks. So the expected output over here in this example is user 1, right? That's the only user. So now here's the tricky part. How do we actually detect consecutive years in SQL? We don't have a built-in function for that, right? But what we need is a clever transformation trick. And that's exactly what we will build step by step now. So let's start with the full data set exactly as it is. And at this point, we are not making any assumptions. We are just observing the raw data. Now the problem clearly says we only care about users who filed using TurboTax. So the first thing that we do is we filter out all the non-TurboTax rows. And we are only left with TurboTax activity. And this step is very important because even a single non-TurboTax year breaks the streak. Next, we extract the year from the filing date because our problem is about consecutive years, not dates, right? So now we have 2019, 20, 21 for user 1 and 2021 for others, right? Now comes the first key idea over here in this problem. We assign a row number per user ordered by year, right? So for user 1, 2019 gets row number equal to 1, 2020 gets row number equal to 2 and 2021 gets a row number equal to 3, right? So now row number represents the position in sequence and not the actual year as we know. Now comes the magic step, right? The heart of the problem. We compute the group ID. And how do we compute it? We do year minus the row number that we have just calculated, right? So let's see what happens for user 1. So for 2019, if we subtract the corresponding row number, it becomes 2018. Similarly, when we do it for the row for 2020, it becomes 2018. And similarly for 2021, it becomes 2018 again because now the row number over here is 3, right? So what do we notice over here? All the consecutive years collapse into the same value. And this is the gaps and the islands trick, right? When data is consecutive, the year minus row number stays constant, right? And whenever there is a gap, the value changes. So let's check for user 2. For 2020, the row number is 1, so we get 2019. Again for 2021, the row number is 2, and again we get 2019, right? So still the same group, but we only have 2 rows over here, which is not enough to meet our criteria, right? Now we group by the user ID and this group ID that we have created. So now this will group together all the consecutive sequences for each user. So each group represents now a continuous streak, right? And finally, we count how many rows are there in each group. So if the count is greater than equal to 3, that means the user has at least 3 consecutive years, right? And this particular condition, as we have seen earlier, is satisfied only by user 1, right? So the key takeaway from this solution is, from this approach is, that we transformed a consecutive problem into a grouping problem now, right? Now maybe let's translate this logic into SQL. So we start with our first CTE and we name it as filtered, right? So over here we extract the year using extract function, right? And then we filter only TurboTax rows using lower plus like operator, right? Next, we create another CTE called group, right? GRP. And here we assign row number per user, right? And then we compute the group ID using this formula. And this is where the gaps and island logic happens. Now we create the consecutive user CTE, right? And here we group by user ID and group ID and keep only groups where count is greater than or equal to 3. So here we are isolating only valid streaks. Finally, we select distinct user ID from the valid streaks and that gives us our final output, right? All the users who actually meet the criteria. So now whenever you see consecutive dates, streaks, continuous activities, always think about gaps and island problem, right? And remember this powerful trick, value minus row number will be constant for a consecutive group, right? So now that's it for this particular problem. And now I will see you in the next one. Happy coding.